Dirty Bertie. Burp. David Roberts, written by Alan MacDonald. Chapter 1. Bertie was the only one in his class who actually liked school dinners. Lumpy mash with gloopy gravy. Wormy spaghetti with meatballs. Cold custard with slimy skin on top. Bertie loved them all. Ugh. I don't know how you can eat it, said Darren at lunch on Friday. Bertie slurped his rice pudding and gave an extremely satisfied burp. Aren't you going to finish yours? No, said Darren. It looks like Frog's Pawn. Pass it over, said Bertie. Just then Miss Skinner, the head, swept into the dining hall with a woman in a white coat. Miss Skinner rapped on a table to get their attention. I want you all to meet Miss Beansprout, who is our new head dinner lady, she said. Miss Beansprout has lots of splendid ideas to improve our school meals. Miss Beansprout gazed at them fondly. Children, she said, it's my job to make sure you all have a healthy, wholesome diet. Who can tell me something that is healthy and delicious? Pamela raised her hand. An orange, she said. Very good, beamed Miss Beansprout. An avocado, said Noel Nick, showing off. Excellent, said Miss Beansprout. Nuts, said Bertie. Wonderful. Nuts are very good for you, nodded Miss Beansprout. Great, said Bertie. Will we be having donuts tomorrow? Stop talking and get on with your dinner, snapped Miss Beansprout. On Monday Mrs. Mold wasn't serving dinners behind the hatch as usual. In her place was Miss Beansprout. She had written a menu on the board. Bertie and his friends stared in horror. Surely this was some kind of joke? Broccoli? Cabbage? Was she trying to kill them? What's this? Asked Bertie. Lots of lovely fruit and vegetables, said Miss Beansprout. Just what growing children need. But where are the chips? Asked Bertie. No greasy chips, said Miss Beansprout. Where is the custard? No horrible custard. Where's the jam roly-poly pudding? No stodgy puddings full of nasty sugar, said Miss Beansprout. From now on we're all going to be eating delicious greens and nourishing salads. I love salad, said Noel Nick. A big helping for me. Bertie gave him a withering look. Cabbage soup or broccoli bake? Miss Beansprout asked him. Can't I just have pudding? Asked Bertie. Broccoli bake it is, said Miss Beansprout. She ladled a gloopy green mess onto Bertie's plate. Splat! Next to it went the salad, swimming in beetroot juice. Yogurt or carrot cake surprise? Asked Miss Beansprout. What's the surprise? Asked Bertie, hopefully. The carrots are organic. That means they're bursting with vitamins, beamed Miss Beansprout. Bertie carried his tray over to a table to sit down. I can't eat this, he grumbled, staring at his plate. You haven't tasted it yet, said Noel Nick. Quite right, Nicholas, said Miss Skinner, who was on dinner duty. Perhaps some fussy children could learn from your example. Eat up, Bertie, it looks delicious. Bertie raised a forkful of green gloop to his lips. Darren leaned over to whisper in his ear. Boiled bogies with squashed slug salad. Bertie set down his fork. Suddenly he didn't feel at all hungry. Chapter 2. Miss Beansprout's dinners got worse. On Tuesday they had celery and nut crumble. On Wednesday it was liver casserole and sprouts followed by stewed prunes. Bertie couldn't take any more. At break time he called an emergency meeting in the playground. If I eat one more vegetable I'm going to be sick, he groaned. So am I, said Eugene. I couldn't stop burping yesterday, said Darren. Great big smelly burps. I know, I was sitting next to you, moaned Donna. Well, it's no good just grumbling, we've got to do something, said Bertie. We could kidnap Miss Beansprout and lock her in a dungeon, suggested Darren. Good idea, said Donna. Except we haven't got a dungeon. Well, I'm not putting up with it any longer, said Bertie. They can't make us eat it. Can't they? Asked Eugene. No, said Bertie. Not if we all refuse. Not if we all say we're going on strike. Eugene looked anxious. Won't we get into trouble? Listen, said Bertie. We're not eating anything until they give us back our old dinners. Right? Right, agreed the others. Even lumpy mash and gloopy gravy would be better than the sickly slop Miss Beansprout gave them. At lunchtime Bertie joined the dinner queue. What would you like? Liver casserole and sprouts, asked Miss Beansprout. No, thank you, said Bertie. A big slice of spinach pie? No thanks, said Bertie. I don't want anything. Nothing? Don't be silly. You have to eat, said Miss Beansprout. Bertie shook his head firmly. I'd rather go without. So would I, said Darren. And me, said Donna. She nudged Eugene. Oh, me too, please, said Eugene. Miss Beansprout sent for Miss Skinner. These children are refusing to eat their dinners, she said. Which children? Said Miss Skinner. The others all looked at Bertie. We're on strike, Bertie informed her. Till you bring back the old dinners. Miss Skinner smiled a thin smile. I see. You don't want any dinner? Well, that's fine with me. Pardon? Said Bertie. It's fine. Go without, said Miss Skinner. Off you go. Bertie and his friends trooped away with empty plates. They sat down at a table and watched the other children chewing and slurping their food. I'm hungry, moaned Darren. So am I, groaned Eugene. I'm starving. I could even eat a carrot, said Donna. Eugene gazed over at Noel's plate. Couldn't we just have pudding? No, said Bertie. We're on strike, remember? We're not eating until they give us back our old dinners. But I haven't had anything since breakfast, grumbled Darren. If I don't eat soon, I'll starve to death. Huh, said Bertie. Well, it would just serve them right if we did. Maybe it'd teach them a lesson. Chapter 3. Slam. Bertie arrived home from school. His mom was in the kitchen talking on the phone. Yes, she said. Don't worry, I'll speak to him. He's just come in now. Bertie had the feeling it was time to make a swift exit. He ran upstairs. Bertie, yelled his mom. Down here now. I want a word with you. Bertie shuffled into the kitchen. What's all this about not eating your school dinners? Demanded Mom. Oh, said Bertie. That. Yes, that. I just had Miss Skinner on the phone and she sounds very cross. Tea's not my fault, said Bertie. The dinners are horrible. They're full of vegetables. Vegetables are good for you. But Mom, they're making us eat broccoli. And beetroot. And carrots. Good, said Mom. It sounds very healthy. How can it be healthy when I feel ill just looking at it? Asked Bertie. Don't make such a fuss, Bertie. It's only a few carrots. But, Mom. No buts, said Mom. Tomorrow you eat all your dinner. Bertie sighed. Okay. Promise me, said Mom. I promise, said Bertie. As he went upstairs he smiled to himself. He'd promised to eat his dinner, but he hadn't said what would be in it, had he? Peep. Miss Skinner blew her whistle for the start of school. Bertie hurriedly stuffed something down his jumper and fell into line. What if she catches you? Hissed Darren. She won't, replied Bertie. No talking at the back, yelled Miss Skinner. In you go. The line of children began to file past the head, who watched them with narrowed eyes. Bertie kept his head down. Another few meters and he was home and dry. An arm shot out and barred his way. Oh. Bertie, said Miss Skinner. Yes, miss? What's that lump under your jumper? Lump, miss? Nothing, Mississippi. Really? Miss Skinner's finger prodded his jumper. It crackled and rustled. Hands up, ordered the head teacher. What? Said Bertie. You heard me, hands in the air? Bertie raised both his hands. A bag of crisps fell out of his jumper. Then 2 more. Pockets, said Miss Skinner. Bertie turned out his pockets. Some sweets and chocolate bars scattered at Miss Skinner's feet. You know the rules, Bertie, she said. No crisps or sweets in school. The chocolate disappeared into her pocket. Later that day, Bertie passed the staff room on his way to lunch. He heard raised voices inside. Thank goodness we don't have to survive on school dinners, said Miss Boot. Yes, they really are unpleasant, replied Miss Skinner. Have another piece. Bertie opened the door a crack and peeped in. He could see his teachers eating something. It was a bar of chocolate. His bar of chocolate. Bertie gasped. Well, this time they've gone too far. Nobody stole Bertie's chocolate and got away with it. In the dining room Bertie stared. All his friends were eating their dinner. I thought we were on strike, Bertie scowled. Sorry, Bertie. I've got to eat. My mom made me promise, replied Eugene. Mine too, said Darren. Never mind, at least we tried, sighed Donna. Bertie didn't answer. He wasn't beaten yet. If only he could think of some way to get revenge. He stared at the sloppy cauliflower cheese on Eugene's plate.